This podcast is all about gratitude. It's my gratitude post. And honestly, I would have intended to have done it yesterday, and time just got away from me. So I was in gratitude with those I love and hope that you were the same and not pining away for the missing podcast on Friday, which would have been Black Friday. This is my official Thanksgiving past post. That's not hard to say at all. But I also want to let you know that when this episode was done, I had a PS. So it's a little bit longer than potentially intended it to be. And I hope that you'll stick around to the end. So 10 years ago, today, we're on Thanksgiving Day. I enjoyed Thanksgiving without my family, with 1,500 new acquaintances at an all inclusive buffet in Cozumel. That trip was the beginning of something very different for me. Changing the environment gives you a unique perspective that you may never have had time or ability to see otherwise. And for me, it was revisiting something that I'd considered doing much earlier, probably about 2 years, but I pushed that somewhere else on the back burner, if you will, in the hectic and safe place of being busy day to day. But it was over 6 weeks later, after that Thanksgiving week, when I followed through on owning my own dreams instead of talking about them. And a year later, at Thanksgiving, I was at the table with my family physically and not there mentally at all. My son was home from his first semester of college for the week, and we were with the usual suspects at a wonderful dinner. But I was scared, getting scared. I'd already taken the steps to talk to a realtor about potentially listing my house. You see, after that Ironman in Cozumel, that weekend, I took a couple days to dream and think about what it was I really wanted and how I really wanted to spend that huge chunk of time and energy at what we call work. And don't get me wrong, I've loved every job that I've had. I didn't love all the things about every one of them. From lecturing at a university, I loved teaching college students about fitness, about movement, about how to teach other people and how to influence behavior change. I loved managing personal training department and hosting radio shows, writing articles, speaking to all kinds of audiences on all kinds of stages about wellness and the impact of it on business, on families, and on lives. It's been a dream to do all of it. It just felt like I was meant for more. I found myself criticizing parts of our fitness industry. And what's the answer when you can see the problem? I think that it's to do something about it. In the movie, do you remember National Treasure, the very first one? Nicolas Cage's character says, and I believe he was quoting someone famous, but I don't know who. Those who see the opportunity to make something better have the responsibility to make it better. So 9 years ago on this holiday, I was as scared as maybe I've ever been. At this point, I'd gone even to a couple therapy sessions over the complete hornet's nest of stress that the past 11 months had been, from quitting my job, starting my own business, or at least going all into one I'd pretended to have and call a business prior to that. My long-term relationship falling off the ledge, and my son going away to college. I mean, when you add up all of the things that occurred to me in a relatively short amount of time, it was pretty vast. My first 2 hours of therapy were my last 2 hours of therapy, I'm sorry to say. Since I went to my second session, and she said, There's something I didn't ask you at the first session that I should have, and so I waited. Have you considered hurting yourself? On the way home, I laughed so hard I cried about the fact that that's kind of a big omission, huh? And so I thought, we're done here. It's like, that could have been kind of bad had you needed to ask that and not, right? So at that point, I had already pawned jewelry, sadly, to pay for Facebook ads at the time to grow this fledgling business. And these Facebook ads, I'm certain, in fact, that I had no idea what I was doing. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, and I share what to eat and how to move and how to change your mindset so you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this better second half. And this is just an example, really, of mindset and how there's no one immune, not even I. So while I'm laying down the path and the blueprint for certain aspects and components of science about exercise, and by no means is there a one size fits all, but there is a blueprint so that we can say, what are you experiencing? What's your status? How long have you been doing that? What have you tried? From that, I'm teaching fitness professionals and health coaches exactly how to prescribe exercise for their midlife clients. So if you are a health coach or a trainer, you should stick around to the end of the show where I'm talking about some ways to get in right now at a very special rate. But if you are looking and you need a community and a tribe and a blueprint, you're in the right place. And we are working right now diligently on training more fitness professionals to be able to do the same, not simply to list themselves or title themselves as a menopause fitness trainer, but to actually know what to do and how to help. So here's where we're going with this. You know, I have gone to therapy and I'm all behind it. So many people I know right now have gone to therapy, are still going. Go on a regular basis and increase sessions, increase the frequency when they're going through a situation, but they don't wait for the situation. And by doing that, they have much better coping skills with everything day to day in life. Because let's just face it, the last 2.5, 3 years has been a little bit to bear, when you agree. So I'm all behind that. And I think we all need to be. So consider that if you haven't and you're struggling on a regular basis. But for me, I had to put that one down because I just didn't feel at least that one single session or two were doing me any good in moving forward, which is really what I needed. I needed some support making some decisions, and I wasn't getting that kind of support. So, what I love to talk to you about here is many of my recent past Thanksgivings and how different they've been from that 10 years and then 9 years ago. I was the aunt at the table in Colorado while my son celebrated with his dad in Iowa. Certainly not typical. Not for an Iowa girl born and raised and bred on family and where everybody gathers at grandma's house over Thanksgiving. And even though when kids grow up and now they're adult children and they go from one house to the other house, the in-laws to the outlaws, we still ended up gathering for the most part with a pretty big crew every holiday. But mine changed dramatically. And once I'd moved from Colorado to Arizona, and my son was finally out of college, he began celebrating here with me for Thanksgiving. So this is our third Thanksgiving here. And we were out golfing both Thursday and Friday, if that's highly complimentary of what it was that I was doing, by the way. It's yet to be determined whether the golf or the Thanksgiving meal will redeem me for the other. This is what I wrote Thanksgiving morning as I thought I'll record this later today. Let me just tell you that after golf, I was certain it was the cooking that should have redeemed me. And after the turkey, which had warmed for 2 hours, it had been pre-cooked, was cold when we carved it, I was really in trouble here. The golf was bad. Dinner was not getting 5 stars, let me just say that. The chocolate pie redeemed me. Anyway, more on that later. So I've already forgotten the rolls at the store, had to go back and get those. Talk about trauma on going to the store on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Oh, so there's a lot of things that didn't go right with this Thanksgiving. This year, I have two families. Last week, through no intention or fault of ours, I lost access to my Google accounts, the ones where I get my everyday emails, the ones where I have access to Google Drive, where I have documents that I've shared with my team that I've created over decades that I'm using to prepare for a huge summit in early 2023. Lost access to all of it and was thinking for my brand new summit team, I'm making such a great first impression. So it was a little tense for 4 days. And it's then that I realized I I wasn't losing a dream I'd had for my life or a home or friends in a community that I'd loved. It wasn't 3 years later being at the right place when my niece's world fell apart, when real tragedy, not an inconvenience, struck. And so I had to reflect on really what was happening to me last week as I thought, this is terrible, this is awful. And it was stressful not knowing, how do I proceed? Do I proceed fingers crossed that this will all be resolved in a few days? Or do I start really planning plan B? If I have to build from scratch all of that, how am I going to do it better? And what time investment is that going to look like while I'm juggling everything else? That kind of stress, though, is a choice. That kind of stress is what we call, I think, first world stressors and the kinds of decisions that we get to choose. But the stressors that I'd gone through 9 to 10 years ago, and the stress that my niece and our entire family went through at a tragic loss in 2016, those things have taught me more resilience and how to cope when things are just nuisances, inconveniences. And when a holiday like this comes, I think we mark holidays like the markings on a timeline. More than birthdays, we have this entire collection of certain holiday memories that we pull out, serving as the evidence of change in our lives. I do remember the abundant spread my mother used to make once her mother, my grandma, had passed, and our Thanksgivings were no longer over the river and at least 2 hours in a car to grandma's. My mom began creating these amazing holiday meals. It began then in about 1988, and it continued until 2015. Do we wonder how our relationship with food is so complicated then? Every memory of family, good or bad, revolves around food. But collectively, with holidays, it's more than the benchmarks and the pictures of people who now have left an empty chair and the growing need for more chairs at the table as families expand and change. I mentioned seeing my niece's life fall apart. And I want to be sure to let you know that I've also seen it come back together. It's not the same. It's a beautifully new life with new people to love and the always ever present memory of someone she did love and whose memory she and her boys love. There's hope in that story for all of us, how change happens and how parts of us may die while new parts of us can grow and others regenerate. You have enough heart for more. You have all the time you need. People begin running, lifting weights, golfing, painting, falling in love, getting married in their late 40s, 50s, and 80s. And they continue to do Ironman distance triathlons in their mid and late 80s and lift weights in their 90s. We have all the things we need, a mind, a body, and the thoughts and actions we take are choices that change in one way or in another. This Thanksgiving, I'm sharing a meal around a new table at a new house with my son and his new, now doctor girlfriend, with so much to be grateful for. Different, still blessed, even more grateful for all the days of the year I have to choose how I want to spend them, who I want to spend them with, and the people along my path in my life now who make each day matter most. The exercise is both a small and a large part of what we do. It's an anchor for inner strength. It's training discipline. For you, the discipline may be doing less and realizing that's best, or maybe that you need to do more and find the strength or add the power or muscle building protein to your diet. To optimally change an aging body and a brain requires strength training optimally, not just randomly. Protein and perhaps supplementation, and perhaps HRT or hormone replacement therapy, if you choose it, can also be a part. But at the base of optimal age is proper strength training. That's not a given. There are a lot of studies, and I will be talking more about this in December of 2022, that look at the importance and influence of protein, that look at the importance of and influence of essential amino acid supplementation or branch chain amino acid supplementation. And I won't go down this rabbit hole right now, but I will tell you that if you look at which of these is the most important, and I haven't yet mentioned, the other thing is strength training. The most influential and impactful is strength training, with or without additional protein, with or without additional supplementation. Protein alone, even higher levels of it, is not really enough stimulus. For an older, bedridden adult, protein is better than nothing. But for you, able bodied woman, you need to lift weights. If you support yourself with eating adequate calories, you cannot be on a diet. You cannot be in a huge caloric deficit if you've been an active person for over 2 years and expect that you will gain lean muscle. If you are trying to lift weights and to lose fat at the same time, chances are you have two conflicting things going on. Focus on the muscle. Focus on the muscle. Focus on the muscle, just in case you didn't hear that the first two times. And the fat loss will come. Do everything possible. Do the strength training. Eat the additional protein from most likely what you're doing right now, and supplement. But if you're not getting adequate protein from your diet, supplement first with essential amino acids. Many women ask, should I be doing branch chain amino acids? The answer is no, because if you don't have dietary protein dialed in, branch chain amino acids do not do the work for you. You've got to eat the protein and consume high quality levels of the right amount of protein. So more on that coming this month. So stay tuned for that. We'll get out of this long, curvy rabbit hole that we've taken. One Thanksgiving, I can remember this around a family table. I asked my brother, who has been on varying doses of prednisone for years, if he was lifting weights. Now, you may not know this about prednisone, but that's a steroidal drug. Often someone is taking it for life-saving purposes, as was he. And so prednisone is actually something that inhibits bone density and becomes problematic as a risk factor for if you're on something on a prolonged basis. Now, many of us may have had something like bronchitis and been on a 5-day dose of a steroid to get off of the bronchitis and get over it. That's not what we're talking about. So we're talking about extended periods of time, like long periods of time in high doses. My brother was on repeats of high dose, tapering down, trying to get him off of it, but he would then have poor symptoms. So we're talking years on a steroidal drug that can do real devastation. And it did to him. So he has a metal plate, in fact, in his spine because of his fragile joints. So, of course, I asked if he's lifting weights. My mother piped in his defense and saving him. Well, why does he need to lift weights? He looks fine. And everyone at the table waited with bated breath, like, how's this going to go? What's she going to say to this? Because they all knew better. But, my mom was at the time probably in her late 80s and different generation. That's how they thought of exercise. It's as a means to an end and a punishment or a change if you're not happy with the way you are now, not a proactive way to protect yourself. So several heads turned my way that day to see if I was going to implode. But that was simply the generational difference. In her day, exercise was only to change the way we were unhappy or discontent with our bodies in some way. Today, some of that lingers. And how could it not? In you and I, there is most likely doing X to get Y somewhere that we're not yet. We want to get some result we don't have yet, and that's why we're exercising. Still, though, more and more of us embrace the empowerment that comes in the other reasons that we exercise. The mood boost, the confidence, the resilience against stress, the ability to physically do more for ourselves, and not just right now, but later in life. Improve sleep. It becomes a source of pride in who we are, much like other things in life, a family we've raised, a business we've built, success in a job we've done well, the pristinely clean car or uniquely decorated homes that we have. Pride in just being a regular exerciser is a thing. I personally regret not playing golf consistently after high school. I played regularly again in my 30s for a few years and then became my son's number one fan as he golfed. And then juggling work and home, that was all the time allowed. And life this past decade has been full of other things too. So each time that I go to take a lesson, I feel both a little inspired and a little behind. My next door neighbor has asked me to play with her. I don't feel ready, right? I don't feel good enough yet to play in a ladies' league again. I haven't yet made practice and play a regular part of my routine between lessons, but it's the range fees and the lessons that keep me consistent to at least even the level that I am. Without them, I wouldn't get these basics that remind me again, I'm a golfer. And so it is with you. If you're exercising, but not in a way that meets your needs, not consistently, and if you're not doing a program built based on women just like you, not on men, not young athletic men, as much of the exercise science is, then the Flipping 50 membership may be right for you. It's filled with 7 12-week strength training programs based on workouts sequenced for the optimal impact to muscle and bone with cues for the optimal safety and effectiveness. There is nothing random or YouTube-ish, if that's a word, about Flipping 50 programs. No YouTube workout, including mine, give you the benefit of knowing what you've done most recently, the workout before this, and what you'll do later this week in consideration of what you do for your workout today. And yet a lot of women feel like they should be able to do this. They should be able to plan their own exercise. And the truth is, there is so much that goes into planning the progression, the sequence of exercise that strategically gets the most done in the least amount of time. And yet, allows you the important recovery time within the workout and the workout sets. So, recovery isn't just important between workout days. It is important between the stimulus for same muscle groups. You want 2 to 4 minutes. So, all of the sequences that we do are built specifically based on protocols that achieve a certain method and madness to it. So, there is nothing that is, this is about the creative way I felt when I got up today. This would be a good exercise. And that, unfortunately, is how a lot of personal trainers will plan their workouts. They will get up and say, "This has never been done before. We've never done this like this before. This will be great." But the reason it hasn't been done before, they've never seen it before, is because it's not proven when they do it like that. They're throwing in random tools and lots of toys to keep you stimulated, feeling like there's tons of variety, and I understand your need for that. But more than that, most women want and need results, and they want to see it and feel it and not feel injury. And that's really important as a consideration. The number one thing is do no harm. Doctors hear it, but so do personal trainers, at least those that I taught for 15 years. We are supposed to be making life better, not be making people so sore or potentially injured that they're taken out of life in order to recover. And the older we get, the more strategic we want to be about preserving and gaining muscle and bone density, and also about our brain health. There's no more effective exercise than strength training to change the way we age, provided it's done correctly based on science featuring you, someone just like you. And that includes adequate strength stimulus for muscle, adequate stimulus for bone density, the rest and the recovery within workout sets and between workouts, and includes components of power and balance and mobility. And imagine 10 years from now, like my 10 years ago. Imagine 20 years from now. If you stay on the same path you're on right now, this is the question that I asked myself 10 years ago before I pulled the trigger and said, or maybe in this case, it was pull the plug on the work that I was doing. If I stayed on the same path I was on, where would I be? I would still be in the same town, working with the same people, growing less and less every year, every day, every week, every month, getting stale, getting too comfortable. And I couldn't do it because I felt like I had a responsibility to my son to show him the options, that there's not just one way, that if you see a better way, it's okay to create one. You don't have to go looking for one that's already there. So if you stay on the same path right now, will you lose 8 to 20% of your current lean muscle mass? Will you maintain it or will you gain it? And if you continue on the same path right now, will you lose 8 to 10% of bone mineral density every decade? Or will you experience more rapid loss if you're in the menopause transition? What will the future holiday gatherings look like for you? Will they be influenced by your physical health? For all of us, in many ways, they will, one way or another. A woman I recently did an interview with, a doctor, mentioned she went to a class offered at a gym with her spouse recently. She said, "I did what I needed to do, even if it wasn't appropriate for me, since we were doing it together." She went on to explain what that was that she chose, thinking that this is what women need. She said, "I took more rest when I needed the rest," which is fantastic that she was listening to herself. But here's what I want you to know. And I want you to keep in mind that that was a doctor. I hope she realized that women more than men need greater stimulus for muscle and bone. She wasn't there with her husband doing the same workout, doing something that was more appropriate for her, for him and less for her, but potentially she needed more Maybe she did need more rest, but she also needed more stimulus. Results don't come from those boot camps of moving in a frenzy and just getting tired. It's time that we lose the ideas that we're gaining over decades. We have to unlearn them. We have to start fresh, realizing you need more stimulus right now than you've ever needed before. While, yes, more rest may be a part of it, it's only a part of it. An older man needs more recovery as well. So do 50% of 20 somethings, though. Keep that in mind. It's not only recovery that's an age thing, it's just everything. A mass workout filled with men and women of all ages is not serving any of them without knowing it. And what I mean is that you're told that this is appropriate for anybody, that you can modify and you can adjust, and potentially you can if you've worked with someone one on one so that you know exactly how you should modify it. Because how you feel is not always the gauge in what should you be doing. So simply going through workout after workout, listening to how you feel, that I'm not saying that's not important. How you feel never lies. It's a statement that I use often, and I'm not backing up on that one at all. But what I'm saying is that simply doing a workout, listening to how you feel without planning workouts, this one, then that one, then this one, then that one, and knowing the structure of those workouts and what it is you need to progress and to have some evidence that you're gaining the ground that you want to is ultra important. Make your own wish list come true. There's no wishbone required for this one. And here is where I'm adding a PS, an update, so that I thought this would be the end of the podcast right here, showing you that, there's so much change that happens from one Thanksgiving to the next. So much about the holiday stirs up memories that are joyful, tearful, and everything in between. So, my message to you was that I hope you give yourself some grace and share that with everyone around you. We just never know at this time of year what someone else might be going through. And the holidays can be joyful and they can be equally as painful for many people. So allow yourself to feel all the feels and to know that some of that melancholy, some of those tears that come with sense of this season, with music of the season, are because of love that you've felt. But I want to let you know what happened to me today. I dropped kids off at the airport and I took myself to the gym because, well, I'd been impressed and a little shocked that my son and his girlfriend went for a walk yesterday morning before we left for golf, and I did not. The tables have turned, my friend. I was like, what just happened here? This is amazing. Other than swinging my golf club a lot and stepping in and out of the cart to stay on time for our 18-hole rounds, both on Thursday and Friday, I didn't really exercise while I were here. And of course, that's fine. We exercise regularly to have these easy misses when we're busy and otherwise engage. And as it is, I still run a business and I like to check in on things while I'm away or on the holiday. So while they were out walking, I was doing just a little bit of working. But once back at home after the gym today, deep into chopping up leftover turkey for two unique soups. And if you want one of the recipes, by the way, I will link to the black and white bean turkey chili in this episode. And the other recipe is exclusively inside our members area. So if you're a Flipping 50 member and you're listening, you can get to the turkey tortilla. It's actually listed as chicken tortilla, but I made it turkey tortilla because I only had about 5 or 6 pounds of turkey left over. So there you have it. Come on over. I put on the holiday music and I realized I was having a tough time. I couldn't put my finger on it, but then I realized I had this longing that I can't satisfy. And as much like a holiday song as it sounds, I long for the familiar face and place that isn't there anymore. And life is good, don't get me wrong. Having the kids here for Thanksgiving was perfect, and it's right that they're going home to do a first Christmas at my son's new home. How fun to imagine all the decisions about where we'll go, the tree, and how to decorate it, and so many things can actually be the start of years of traditions of his own. And I was thinking every holiday past as if they were like yesterday, and the ones from when I was little and believed and wished my dreams would come true on Christmas morning, and the Christmas Eve traditions we had then, and the ones I enjoyed with my own family much later, all flooded my memory. I ached for the past and all the blessings that I've had over the holidays that we've enjoyed. Yesterday, walking the mall, mostly to walk off a dinner of sushi celebrating the new doctor in our contingent, I didn't have a list. There was no wish list, no want list. There wasn't something I wanted that I thought, well, this will make me happy. It's what I want this Christmas. I'm there. So I don't know why it struck me so hard, the melancholy of Christmas past this year. This is the second Thanksgiving with my mom's empty chair. The last year, it was fresh. We just said goodbye, and I was still surrounded by so much love and support. And I think maybe I was just a little all cried out. I encourage you to be where it matters most to you this year for the holidays, to do the things alone and with the people that have meaning to you. This afternoon, I pulled out my tree and I began to decorate after I realized that I was kind of in a low spot. I thought this is not a year to forego the tree because inside of those boxes are memories too of every first and every ornament that was gifted to me. As I put them on the tree, I remembered the high school best friend and the loss of a family member, the vacation in Hawaii, the first Christmas with Dustin. And be sure you're taking in each Christmas, each benchmark that these holidays are to consider what you love about this time in your life. And if you want to change, to make plans, to make the changes in who you need to be in order to have them. I love Christmas, but more than that, I love and hope you do your every single day and the strength and the optimism that you have about tomorrow. And with that, friends, I will close with a thanks to you for being here and a part of my community, a part of what I get to do every day. We're at a unique place in history. We midlife women can change the way everyone ages by showing them how to do it. Not the same as other generations have, but with the science we now have to be the first generation to be 80, to be an 80, what no one has seen before. And as I release this episode, there are just 2 days left for these three things in our Black Friday event. Number one, the Flipping 50 membership is open for a very special Black Friday event savings and two bonuses that will not be there later. And we close again after that's over. The Flipping 50 March retreat is open and it will be open until it's full, but not at the savings of $700 off the registration rate and not including 90 days of training that will begin December 1st for those who are already registered. But again, if you wait until December 1st, you will miss out on the $700 saving. So think about this. If you were to pay for 90 days of training with me, first of all, I don't do it alone without the full blown coaching. That at best is $4,000. So you get training from me and you get the retreat itself and you get access to a group of women who most likely, because this is the way it's gone with every retreat that I've hosted, the group stays in touch with each other. Every once in a while, the thread in the messenger or in the text thread we created for the event comes alive again, and people are checking in with each other on how it's going and what they're doing. That is priceless. So it doesn't matter where in the world they are. If you don't have a community, you can have one virtually. The third thing I'm going to share to round out the Flipping 50 membership. Number two, the March retreat for a very special event, but a very special way to get out of your element and change your life. But the third thing is for you health coaches or fitness trainers or want to be that. The Flipping 50 Menopause Fitness Specialist is still available at 2018 rates, but prices increased January 1st. And right now, these last 2 days, you can save an additional $200 off the advanced option. You get all the new benefits that we're adding in 2023 already. So you get coaching opportunities within our community. You get 2 other passive revenue streams that we're adding in addition to new resources library that will help you once you know from the course exactly how to prescribe exercise for women in menopause. You will also know how to build your business and get you started. We need more women in the health and fitness coaching business leading the way. We want to make it easier and better for all women to find what they need. And all of those specials end after Cyber Monday. Now, some of them you can get into still, just not for this rate. So if you're waiting for a sign, the sign is now. Even if you missed these specials, you're listening later, this tribe is still all about you. The links will be in the show notes, and the show notes will be at flipping50.com/gratitude. And what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today. Happiest of holidays, no matter when you're listening.